In a sorrowful sansar, where one finds true happiness, there is no trace of sorrow at all. Such a place is Paramatma's temple, his idol, and his refuge. This temple is not just a place to do rituals, but is a powerhouse of Vishwamangal. Regrettably, despite a Paramatma being the giver of happiness and auspiciousness for this world, some people consider the idol of Paramatma as inanimate. We will understand the answers to these questions through this conversation.
Hey Ajay,
Hey Vijay, how are you?
all good bro, but leave all that. Where are you going wearing these 18th century clothes bro?
18th century clothes? Can't you see I'm going to do Jin Puja?
You're going for Jain Puja. How can you do so many violent activities while we do in Jain Puja in the name of Dharma?
Violent activities? What are you referring to? Can you please explain clearly?
Bro, you cannot ignore the facts. Even I have some knowledge. According to my knowledge, Mahavir Bhagwan said that Jain Dharam is a Dharam of non-violence. I'm talking about the violence we do in Abhishek, while we ignite the Dhoop Deep and while we are using the flowers. So many violent activities.
Wait. Let me ask you one question. If you think there's hinsa in all these activities, then what about the other sansaric activities that you have been doing? When you went to Lonavala, you had spent 4 hours in the swimming pool. Every day, you have bathed buckets of water and spent hours while showering. What about the hinsa there? Apart from this, what about the hinsa when you use flowers for various activities, including weddings and all these functions? And nowadays, we have been having weddings in lawns. What about the Vanaspati Kai Jeev in that perspective? What about construction of buildings, construction of luxurious houses and penthouses? If you think there's hinsa in all these activities, don't you think there's hinsa in these activities as well?
No, I think
Wait.
you did not get my point.
I agree to you. I think it's going to be a very long discussion between the two of us. Let's meet again in the evening, and that is when we can have the discussions properly.
Sure, bro.
So Vijay, what were your doubts regarding Jin Puja?
My question was, see, violence is a part of sansar and we are in it. So it is implied we are going to do some violence. If not, we would have just taken Diksha, right? So my question is, in the name of Jin Puja, the violence you are doing, how do you call it dharam?
It seems that the problem that you have is with Jin Puja only. But do you know all other dharmic activities that we currently and regularly do also have elements of hinsa according to you in them?
Like what activities?
See, let me give you an example. Do you think construction of upashrayas and construction of pathshalas is correct?
Yes, it is.
But did you see the hinsa involved in it? While digging the grounds, while laying the stones and construction of the entire thing, the water hinsa that would have been happened there. Just not it. You need to understand.
I never thought that way.
But it's just not it. You need to understand there are more elements as well. Giving grass to cows is dharam as per you.
Yes.
Feeding the birds.
Yes.
And when our Pujya Sadhu Sadhvi Bhagwan are ill, they are not well, at that time doing Vyavach is also dharam as per you, correct?
Correct.
But have you seen the immense amount of Ikindriya Jeev who are being killed in this entire process? The grass is green, the grass is alive. The food that we give to the birds is sachit. And even when we give medicines to our Pujya Sadhu Sadhvi Bhagwan, those medicines also involve huge elements of violence in them. You need to understand that all the dharmic activities that we have been doing till date and that we will be doing in future as well, they will involve very small amounts of hinsa. No dharma activities is possible without an element of hinsa in it.
Yeah, but I never thought from that angle that building a upashraya is same as making a building. So the violence is the same. According to us, feeding cows and everything is helping someone and it is dharam. So we find dharam in it. But so tell me one thing, why such violent activities are allowed in our dharam?
That is exactly the mistake that we have always been making. We always look at it from only one perspective and not from all the different perspectives. Let me give an example to understand this better. Think of a person who is feeding the birds. Do you think he is doing a very good activity?
Yes.
Now, there's another boy who enters the picture and he starts throwing stones at the birds. Now, who is more violent amongst the two?
The person who's throwing the stone.
Exactly. But you need to know the other side of the story as well. The person who was feeding the birds had laid down a net in between so that once a higher number of birds are captured, he would have just pulled the net and they would all be in his cage. But the other boy came to know of this story, of the net that he has been hidden below. and he started throwing stones at the birds so that all the birds can run away and save their lives. You need to understand now. What do you think? Who is more harmful or who is more violent here?
The person who is making the pigeons eat.
Exactly. Here, when we understand things from a different perspective and a different angle, we really understand who is doing what, which clearly implies that we don't have to actually look at things from the outer perspective, but also need to understand the bhav or the feelings that the person is having while doing those activities. Similarly, if someone comes and cuts a scratch on your stomach, do you think he's a good person?
No.
Yes, but now what if that person is a doctor and he's operating you for appendix?
So he's saving my life. Yes, he's.
Exactly, the same thing again. When you just tell someone that he's putting a scratch in your stomach, he's a wrong person. But when you know his bhav or his intentions of doing it, you understand that the real intention of the doctor is to save your life. That is where you change your feelings, and that is where we understand. Similarly, in Jin Puja, while what we see is only the hinsa of water and the flowers in it, but you also need to understand that in fact the internal bhav, the internal feelings of that person is to eventually achieve moksha. And it does not only stop here, it also leads to the benefit to the lives of water and those flowers as well. Just imagine if the person would not have done Abhishek Puja or Pushpa Puja to our beloved Prabhu, what would have happened to the life of that water and to the life of that flower? The water would have been used in swimming pool or in gutters by people like you and me, and the flower would have eventually died in maybe in some lady's head, or maybe while showering across at a village or a wedding. You need to understand that irrespective, the flowers are facing an inevitable death. The water is also facing an inevitable death. But here, when you give those flowers to Prabhu, the flower and the water are also achieving samkit. You need to understand that very clearly.
Yeah, this was convincing, but not entirely. So I still have some doubts. Can you
Wait.
Yeah.
Let me give you one more example. Suppose in order to earn 10 lakh rupees, you have to spend certain amounts. Do you think that expenditure is justifiable?
Yes, for 10 lakhs.
For 10 lakhs, the small amounts of say merely a few rupees is justifiable, and it is immaterial in front of that. Similarly, in front of the entire punya that we accumulate while doing Dravya Puja of our Prabhu, that is way more worthy or way more beneficial than the 10 lakh rupees, and the hinsa that you feel in front of the immaterial benefits that we gain is really very small. Apart from that, I just explained you, those lives, the lives of these flowers and water is also benefiting from it. So, are you still clear about it or not?
Yes, I think puja should be done after listening to you. It's worth. But tell me one thing, Bhagwan, Prabhu, he left his mortal body, he has become Nirakar, Niranjan. So why to make their idols and worship them? Why can't we just do Bhav Puja? Why to do Kesar Puja, whatever, physically? Why not Bhav? So there will be no idol, there will be no mandir, there will be no temple, no construction, and no Jeev Hinsa.
That is just you being lazy, and it is all your pramad that is coming into the place. You need to understand. Okay, let me give you one example. Do you know the taste of mango?
Yes.
What is it?
It's sweet.
Do you know the taste of a bitter gourd?
Haha, yes. I don't eat that.
Exactly. Do you know the fragrance of a flower?
Quite.
Exactly. So the bitter taste, the sweet taste, the fragrance, these are all abstract things. But in order to achieve these abstract things, similarly, we need to take support of a Prabhu's idol to understand the real existence of Prabhu and become Niranjan and Nirakari like him. Puja of our dear beloved Prabhu is the means for us to take to that next level.
But here we are talking about Atma. We have these mangoes or whatever for the body, for the food we have for the body, not for the Atma. So how is this linked?
Okay, let me give you one more example. Or rather, let me ask you a question. Do you know nowadays all the parents are enforcing more and more restrictions on their kids on usage of mobiles, TVs and all these electronic appliances?
I'll talk about me. I myself do that. It's limited for my child to watch a TV or his mobile.
Why do you think that is?
Because of the negative impact that can fall on my child.
Exactly. We all know that these devices and all the things that we watch into them have huge impact on the minds of us as well as our children. Let me give you an example. Do you remember Blue Whale?
Blue Whale, yeah, that game, yeah.
Exactly. The game which ended with multiple people doing suicides. There was a movie. After watching that movie, a young lady went home through a killing spree of more than 10 people. Why? Because that is what she watched in the movie. She murdered the people exactly the way as it was shown in the movies. Apart from that, do you remember when we were kids, we all used to play Spider-Man and Superman wearing capes around? What was that?
My child plays Coco Melon these days. What's that?
So exactly, that is all the effect that the TV is leaving on our minds and our children's minds. This TV is material. However, it is having huge impacts on our abstract and intangible minds. You need to understand that. Similarly, Prabhu Puja, Prabhu's idol, while it may look material to you, and it has huge and lasting impacts on our souls. That is where it is required to have an impact. Let me give you one more example around it. There was a father who wanted his child to do Jin Puja and Jin Darshan regularly. However, the child was just not willing to do it. The father, being smart, he tried an idea. He just lowered the doors of his houses and installed Prabhu's idol just above it, so that even unwillingly and unwantingly, the child had to bow down to Prabhu and do the darshan of Dev. That is how he was forced to exit the house every day. Now, as time passed, the son died and he was born in Swayambhu Raman Samudra as a fish. That is where he saw an idol exactly of the shape of Prabhu. Now, on observing that idol, he gained his memories. He remembered what the idol was, and he instantly remembered his past life and the efforts of his father. That is where that fish in that bhav accepted vrats and started doing dharmic activities while in water and all the way far in Swayambhu Raman Samudra. Imagine the huge impact that one small idol had on this child's mind, which went until his next bhav, until his reincarnations. You need to understand this huge impact.
These Shastras were written way back. How are they even practical?
Let me give you a practical example. Do you drink occasionally?
How does that matter over here?
That does matter. That material liquor is having a strong impact on your abstract and very strong minds. Do you realize that?
No, I've not thought of.
But it does have an impact. If you're still not convinced, I'll give you an example. Take material chilies in your hand and just put it in your eyes. Let me know the results that
let me
your
stop.
soul feels.
We don't need to go over there. I get your point. But what doubt I have is still that the sadhu sadhvis who keep on inspiring us to do Jin Puja and the pravachans and everything, but they themselves are not doing any of such activities. So what is the reason for that?
It seems that you still don't know the real reason why we should do puja. The reason why we do Jin Puja is way beyond the logics that you and I can easily think of. It's the Shastras who have helped us to understand the real reason behind it. Let me give you an example around it. Imagine you're going to Ahmedabad and you go by train. What happens once the train reaches Ahmedabad?
I get down at the station.
Why? Why don't you want to still sit in the station? The train is already at Ahmedabad.
So that's my destination. So
Exactly. Your destination was not the train station, but it was something beyond it, correct?
yes.
Similarly, Jin Puja is the train in which we are stepping in. And our destination is not just Ahmedabad, but it is way beyond it. But once Jin Puja has elevated us to the level that we have reached Sadhu, that is when we need to debar the train of Jin Puja and continue doing Bhav Puja. You need to clearly understand the difference between the two. It is very clear in our Shastras that construction of Jinalayas, Upashrayas, Jin Murti, Patshalas, having Swami Vatsalyas and all the religious and dharmic activities that we just spoke about are restricted as duties and kartavyas of a Shravak, and Sadhu are supposed to follow the dharma of Nivrutti. They're just supposed to retire from all their activities and only concentrate on their soul and do Bhav Puja of our Paramatma. Just imagine, what if the duties are exchanged? What if one starts doing the kartavyas of the other? Just imagine.
It's like I get up one day and I'm going for a gochri. How would yeah, right, you're right.
How funny would that sound? I understand you want equality between sadhus and shravaks as well. But you need to understand equality is not applicable everywhere. Just imagine if you are hungry for 3 rotis and I am hungry for 10 rotis, then one cannot just come and say equality, let us give both of us 5 or 7 rotis. Because of that, and the other one would have eaten more rotis than required, which would lead to indigestion. See, I think it's been a lot of discussions around this. It is just like the taste of jaggery is known by only the person who has tasted it. How much ever I explain you the importance of Jin Puja, but you will only be able to understand it once you have actually done Jin Puja. I would strongly urge you and request you, if you can do Jin Puja for at least a month, that is when you will actually realize the importance and you will really feel the joy in doing Jin Puja and touching our beloved Paramatma for even one day.
See Ajay, my heart is not made of stone. I am really convinced by the examples and by the conversation we have been doing this evening that Jin Puja should be done. And I think that I wasted my whole life ignoring and refuting Jin Puja and not going to Jin Darshan as well. But I think all my doubts over here are cleared. I will do Jin Puja from today and every day and tell everyone to do that, whomever I know. But I still have one question. I hope you don't mind. Can I ask you please?
Yes.
There's no harm in doing Jin Puja. But why not in a room? Why to build such great temples?
The temples have science and logics of its own. You need to understand the intricate carvings, the cultural heritage, and the huge importance and the efforts of so many people have been put in while the construction of a temple. And apart from just construction, it is also the huge lineage and the huge life of these temples which result and which have been born because of the piousness and great sadhana and tapasya that a lot of sadhus and shravaks have done in front of our lords and inside those temples. Because of all these reasons, the great ambience that we feel and we observe inside the temple is because of the energy that is stored within them. All the energy is collected and centered inside the temple, which is not allowed to leave a temple, because the construction of temple is such that apart from the 3 doors that it has, there is no exit for the energy from it. Now just imagine the ambience and the cultural heritage that you will feel in a temple rather than while doing it just in a house. It seems you are not well versed with our history as well. You need to know all our ancestors. Emperor Samprati, he has built more than 1 crore and 25 lakh Jin Pratimas and more than 1,25,000 Jinalayas. Kumarpal Maharaja, you know, he is very great in the field of non-violence. He has also built more than 5,000 temples. Do you know the temple at Abu Delwada and the great Ranakpur temple? All these temples house immense energies and were built with great care, and all the energies of all the sadhu sadhvi bhagavant and all the sadhak is stored in them very strongly and very sharply.
I'm really amazed by these examples, and the conversation, if you can convince me, these conversations can convince anyone to make a temple, and wherever I get a chance to contribute in such activities, I will be the first one to do that, I assure you.
I really appreciate the feelings and the bhav that you just expressed. I think if everyone was as simple and as understandable like you, where would we have taken our Jin Shashan to? Jin Shashan would have actually reached next levels.
So one more thing, last thing, please don't mind. Can you just give me one example? Like there are so many people like me who are not in the favor of Jin Puja, and I am convinced today, but give me one example that I can tell them and they are convinced like this.
See, the examples that I just gave are not only mine. These are various examples that have come out when I was reading the course Jainism. That course has been written by Pujya Maniprabha Shriji, and that gives immense knowledge and immense details. It is available in English and Hindi and in online formats as well. This course has given me all the knowledge that I currently have, be it examples, be it stories, be it history, or even the Kavya and the Sutra Vibhag. You need to understand this course is a very deep. I would suggest, rather than listening to just stories or a conversation with me, which will be very limited amongst the two of us and maybe a few others will listen. But if we can just provide this course to everyone and each one can read them, can complete this course, That is when the knowledge will reach greater heights and greater depths.
I totally agree with you, because just by talking to you for some time, I'm convinced in this. If I read the whole course or if I follow them, how much deep I can go into that. So maybe it will change my entire soul about Jainism. But still, at least can you give one example from the course, the book?
I think you're very adamant about this and you will not stop until I give you a story. Now, this story is about a young woman who was born and brought up in a Mandir Margi Parampara, which means they used to go to temples, and this girl used to go to temple every day. It was a very sanskari family. However, once she was of the right age, her parents were trying to find a very nice and an equal family for her to marry her. And in the course of searching a guy for her, they found a very nice guy who was equally religious and the families were of the same level. But there was only one issue. The other family was not of a Mandir Margi family, which means they did not do Jin Puja, or rather they did not believe in Jin Puja. This is where they asked the girl, will you be ready to go in such a family? What do you think? Should the girl go?
No.
But that is where the twist is. The girl happily accepted, and the words that came out of the girl's mouth were, parents, you have taught me to become sugar, and sugar will dissolve into anything. Let me go there and I will make sure I dissolve with them. That is where the girl went to the family, married it, and she was staying happily with them. Slowly and steadily, with her Vinay, Vivek and all the good elements that she had, she earned the hearts of the entire family. The family, with the intention that the girl stops doing Jin Puja, used to send her to Pujya Guru Bhagwan's pravachan and sermons daily. That is where she used to happily go, and you would not understand, but she was the apple of everyone's eye during those sermons and vyakhyans as well. The girl was filled with humility, conduct and politeness, because of which she was everyone's favorite within a matter of days. And one fine day, in the presence of the whole Chaturvid Sangh, she stood up and she asked for a vow that, dear Guru Bhagwan, I wish that every day, once I have done your darshan, only then I will drink water or eat food. The whole village rejoiced and happily accepted her vow. Once, when the Chaturmas ended, Guru Bhagwan left the village. Now, the bigger question arose. Because of the absence of Guru Bhagwan, she could not complete her vow and she could not eat or drink anything. That is when the village elders came together and they offered her a solution, that she may keep Guru Bhagwan's photo in her house and do darshan, then only she can eat. It was a very happy solution for her. That is when she started doing darshan daily. Her immense bhav and her immense feelings were so strong that even the people from the entire village started coming to her house. Because of the huge number of people that used to come to her house, the village people, with the permission of the elders, the village people took the photo into a bigger room. That is when she politely asked the village, if by doing so much immense bhakti of our Pujya Vairagi Guru Bhagwan, we are getting so much of joy, then just imagine if we do bhakti of Pujya Vitragi Bhagwan, what will be the benefit of those? That is when this question, or rather this request, not only touched the minds but also the hearts of the entire village. Because of this, the entire village and the leaders of the village offered the girl to construct a huge derasar, a huge temple, and establish our Lord in that. Just imagine, because of the soft-heartedness, politeness and her sweet requests and her conduct, the entire village agreed to her request. This is the power of learning Jainism.
Our Shashan is really great. Shashan is Mahan. Thanks to you and your Jainism course that I have been able to learn such depths of our religion, and I will surely follow and inspire people to follow this. Thank you so much.
I would just request you one thing, that you have reached this level of the Jainism course. You have done immense full job and great Anumodana, and thank you to you. You can reach greater heights by just completing the course on a very timely manner. Sarve Jivo Mokshe Jao.